we have defined it, but we have not defined it concretely. The reason I brought this book that defines political terms in a lucid way. Now, if you are a student of politics and history, there are certain basic books you should have. I don't mean if you are preparing to write exams, no. I mean if you want to learn, you are pushing yourself. It's not the learning that is inspired by examination. The learning that is inspired by the deep thought to gather knowledge. And in that case, you are personally on the move in search of knowledge. You should have books like this. Politics and Government in Nigeria by Felix Alonge. You should have books like this. Because outside the stories of politics, there are also definitions. Terms like theocracy, gerontocracy, feudalism, anarchism. What does these words mean? How can you use these words in politics? So if you have a book like this, Politics and Government in Nigeria, by Felix Alonge, you would have also helped yourself to understand the basic terms of politics and government. It's a big book. Let's see how many pages? 618 pages. Politics and Government in Nigeria provides an in-depth analysis of the art of governance. The book shows the underlying theories, principles, institutions, mechanisms, and processes that are involved in the management of the affairs of the state. The book covers extensively topics on government, political science, history, law, and civic education. Written in simple but elegant language, the book has been divided into 4 broad parts that take the reader through the basic concepts and principles of government to the dynamics and complexities of politics in contemporary Nigerian society. Consequently, each part of the book has been broken down into related and manageable chapters for easy understanding. The book is therefore an invaluable asset to students, politicians, and administrators who desire to excel in public examinations and the art of governance. Politics and Government in Nigeria by Felix Alonge. So Felix Alonge will help us understand what Awolowo meant by feudalism. You know, on Tuesday's edition, I read this book by Awolowo, The Travails of Democracy and the Rule of Law. It's a primary text for this show. This is another primary text for the show. So if you read there, Awolowo used certain terms in this book. And that is why I brought Felix Alonge. Awolowo used the term, one of the things that the action group was set out to do was to destroy the very basis of this feudal concept. Feudal concept. So the action group was out to destroy feudalism. So what is feudalism? Let's look at Alonge's book. Alonge says feudalism is a system of government based on the hierarchy of land ownership or holding. It is a social system in which political power is derived from control over land. In other words, it is a system of government based on land tenure system. Land ownership is the basis for exercising political power. Possession of land determines political rights and duties of the people. It shows the hierarchy order of land ownership. Land ownership mainly rests on an emperor who has power to grant land to tenants, who in turn sublet it to those over whom they exercise power and influence. That is the serfs. The emperor receives rent and presents from those to whom their estate or fief are let out. At the apex of the pyramid is the emperor, followed by the lords. Feudalism was practiced in the Middle Ages in Europe, but in Awolowo's time, in Ahmadu Bello's time, Awolowo accused Ahmadu Bello of practicing feudalism in the north. Let's look at it. So one of the things we set out to do was to destroy the very basis of this feudal concept. The action group made the point repeatedly that sovereignty over the people was vested in the people themselves, that no one was born to rule, and that only those who were freely elected by the people were entitled to administer their affairs for a prescribed period of time. In a feudal land, in a feudal system, the people don't have the kind of power Awolowo wanted them to have. Sovereignty over the people was vested in the people themselves. That is not in feudalism. In a feudal state, Ahmadu Bello was like the emperor. Awolowo continues, one day, the Saldana, after a series of public meetings and rallies, stopped at a catering rest house to have lunch. He took out his handkerchief, sneezed into it, and found that his nostrils were filled with dust. He looked at the handkerchief with obvious dismay, shook his head, and said in a voice that carried the depth of his feeling of utter revulsion and resolution, "I shall never forgive Chief Awolowo for this." With the inimitable Saldana himself mounting the rostrum to appeal to those he regarded as his own serfs for votes, all the members of the hierarchy, including the then incumbent Prime Minister, Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, lost no time in following his example. We of the AG regarded this reaction as a very welcome and salutary augury for democratic practice in Nigeria. However, for the entire feudal hierarchy, all that was too much for them. Entire feudal hierarchy. So, another book you should read is The Travails of Democracy and the Rule of Law. Classic. Classic. Politics and Government in Nigeria by Felix Alonge. Another book you should read.